I've explained it before. How I think of this is in two terms. One is anybody who was an investor in Bitcoin in 2011, 12 was like a Series A investor. 2013 cycle, maybe Series B.
Following this week's historic approval and listing of 10 spot Bitcoin ETFs, excitement has rippled through the Ethereum community with hopes of a spot Ethereum ETF emerging on the horizon. However, for those concerned about excessive celebration, Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) Chair Gary Gindler remains poised to temper the mood. In a recent interview with CNBC, Gindler offered little optimism when queried about the possibility of a spot Ethereum ETF materializing. Gindler has consistently maintained that Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency unequivocally considered a commodity, thus lying beyond the SEC's jurisdiction. Although the SEC hasn't officially classified Ethereum's security status, legal filings indicate its oversight of all Ethereum transactions. Raoul Pal delves into the aftermath of the recent ETF approval and discusses the potential for an Ethereum ETF in a recent video. He suggests that an Ethereum ETF could potentially outperform a Bitcoin ETF. Watch the video to explore Pal's insights and share your thoughts by liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment.
2015, 16, Series C, the last cycle, Series D, we've just IPO'd it. And usually when IPOs happen in strong markets like this, it reminds me a lot of the late 90s. And I was trading a lot then. I was at Goldman as well then. And what you found is after the IPO, it would launch and it would be choppy as hell for a while. Sometimes it would sell off quite sharply. Facebook sold off really sharply as people took profits, repositioned. Now, don't forget, a lot of people have front run this ETF. So they're going to want to unwind. And many of those are going to switch to ETH that I've talked about before. They think, rightly so, that ETH is the most likely candidate for the next ETF. And if Bitcoin went up 100% because of this ETF, ETH will go up 300% because it's less liquid, put the same amount of money in. Also, there's a lot of people unwinding the GBTC arbitrage, closing that position, selling out, moving into a different ETF. There's a lot of shenanigans going on. And you can see that with the net flows. There was 4.5 billion or whatever of total flows. The net flows are much smaller, 700 million or so. It's still the biggest ever ETF launches in history as the series, but it's all to play for. And I want you to understand how this works is, okay, all of the pre-orders have now been filled. That was all of these ETF providers going to all of their clients, begging them, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. Everyone's done that. Sure, there'll be some follow-on next week. A lot of the GBTC guys are unwinding, and that will go, some will wait a few days, see if the market is stronger, whatever. So that goes on for a while. You've then taken forward or brought forward a lot of demand. By the end of it, maybe it's 1 billion, maybe it's 2 billion of demand you'll have brought forward. So then who's the buyer? You've got the people who front ran this who want to sell. So you're going to see volatility. And I've always reminded you guys in the do not fuck it up mantra, part of that is expect 30, 35% pullbacks. Could be less, but just expect them. And that often happens when you get to this kind of 61.8% Fibonacci level in the first leg of the bull run. It often corrects sharply. People get washed out, leverage is cleared out, and then the real run starts. And the real run is the run to all-time highs and beyond. That usually starts around the halving. So I'm guessing there's maybe a month or two of chop. And chop in crypto markets is like down 30%. It's just sideways chop. So just be careful out there. I could be wrong, could keep sailing higher, but it just feels like it's trading a bit heavy. And even if it does as a spurt higher, I don't think it makes much progress yet. But this ETF, it's going to attract people because the markets have been strong. Last year, crypto, Bitcoin itself was 160%, right? That doesn't go unnoticed, considering even the NASDAQ managed 50%. So it's like 3x the NASDAQ. But let's start with the RAAs, the investment advisors and the financial advisors. Those guys aren't on Twitter. They have no idea any of this is going on. All of the drama that played out and the false tweet and all of that shit, that total goat rodeo. I don't know any of this. The first they will hear about this is when they pick up Barron's on Saturday morning with a cup of coffee. And they'll go, oh, a Bitcoin ETF. And Barron's will probably have some cynicism in the article, let's assume. And they're like, well, that's interesting, but, I'm not sure it's for my clients. And they go about their business, and then they go and see Jack, their big client, on the golf course that weekend. And Jack says, hey, what do you think of the Bitcoin ETF? And the RAA will repeat what he read in Barron's and what he saw on Fox News. He's based in, let's call it Cincinnati, Ohio. And Jack will ask him, and he'll feel a little bit silly. And then maybe next week, he starts reading a few more articles and a few more positive things come out. Then he starts thinking, maybe I should do something about this. And a couple of other clients ask him. And eventually he goes and has his steak dinner with his other friend, Mark, who runs the tire franchise in Cincinnati. And Mark's got tons of money and he's a bit racy and likes investments like this. And before you know it, he starts building an order book and getting his clients in. He can see they're interested. He's incentivized by the sales process and the commissions. And before you know it, he's mobilized. It's the same with all the RIAs. This takes time. They're not smiling, oh my God, there's a Bitcoin ETF out. Let's all go. It doesn't work like that. It's a relationship business built over time. And this is, all across the United States. It's not New York City in a dealing room. It's a very different world out there. So that's why it takes time. It's the same with any of the institutions who might be thinking about it. Some fund manager who thinks I can sneak it into my portfolio now and not tell my risk manager that I've got crypto. I'll just sneak it in as an equity and hope they don't find out. Same with hedge funds. So that's all to come. And that's why there tends to be this gap. So that's how I'm thinking about it right now. Also, my view, and I've made this very clear, is Solana's my favorite horse in the race of the big ones. I think the first phase is always Bitcoin outperforming. Next is Ethereum. It's at this point in the cycle when the global liquidity turns higher. And when global liquidity turns higher and you've got a catalyst like the ETH ETF, it'll start picking steam. We saw that last couple of days. It was like, wow, okay, ETH is really trying to outperform. I think it bottomed on the massive ETH wedge chart that I put on Twitter yesterday. And I think it will continue higher over time. And I think ETH massively outperforms Bitcoin for the rest of this cycle. So that's the kind of flow, is Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, with Solana at the top of the pie. Again, I could be wrong. You don't need to follow my advice and my weightings and that kind of stuff. And you will find whatever your bag is, and you will be, please don't shill me your bag. I don't really care. And I'm not going to buy it because you're trying to FOMO me into some, $100 million token. It's just not going to happen. So don't do your bag, and why I must look at your particular bag, I don't care. But good luck to you. And hopefully you pick the next 100x. That's not the game I'm trying to play here. Yes, I have a small, filthy degen bag on the side, which I won't tell you what's in it, because then I'll be accused of shilling. And Twitter is a gruesome, disgusting place of which everybody will try and lynch me if one of those tokens goes down. So I'm sticking with the big stuff. So that's the crypto idea number one. The other way of looking at it, you may have heard me talk about, is the IPO idea. Yeah, it's nice. It gives us some guidance of how these things trade contextually. But really, this is a trade deal between fiat world and crypto land. And it's a trade deal because the capital that's flowing into crypto land is not permanent residency. These are not migrants. If you remember, population growth, GDP growth is population growth plus productivity growth plus debt growth. This is not population growth coming into crypto land. That has to be new wallets and actual self-custody or on crypto exchanges and all of that stuff. This is a trade.
The current market value of Bitcoin stands at just over $67,000, showing a modest increase of about 1.36% in the last 24 hours. Despite fluctuations, Bitcoin has maintained relative stability, hovering between $65,000 and $70,000. Experts express confidence that this trend will favor buyers, anticipating a robust bull market ahead. A friend's bullish sentiment suggests Bitcoin could soar to at least $200,000 by 2025, especially if ETFs continue to invest. However, Arthur's outlook is even more optimistic, grounded in broader economic conditions rather than purely crypto dynamics. He envisions a scenario where Bitcoin could skyrocket straight to $1 million in 2025, particularly if macroeconomic factors worsen, such as a significant bond market crash in the coming months. Reflecting on this discussion, it's evident that opinions on Bitcoin's future vary widely. While some remain cautiously optimistic about substantial growth, others foresee unprecedented leaps driven by macroeconomic shifts. The crypto market's trajectory in the next 24 months and beyond will likely be influenced by a combination of factors, including regulatory developments, institutional adoption, and global economic trends. What are your thoughts on Pal and Arthur's predictions for Bitcoin in the crypto market? Feel free to share your insights in the comments below. And if you found this analysis valuable, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more content like this.